I didn't realize I was still shaking until the phone nearly slipped from my hand. Her reply. Those 7 words burned up the screen as if they'd been etched in fire. I'm outside. Open the door, please. For a second, my brain refused to connect reality with what I'd done. A single missent text. 3 stupid words. I miss you. Meant for my daughter. Sent to my boss. I didn't even notice until the bubbles popped up and the doorbell rang a half-second later, echoing through my quiet apartment like a gunshot. I froze, feeling ridiculous and exposed, like all my private thoughts had been spilled into the open. But embarrassment wasn't the only thing twisting inside my chest. There was an undertone to her message, gentle, hesitant, almost emotional. That was the part one couldn't process. Emma Reed wasn't emotional. She wasn't gentle. She was a woman who could slice through a boardroom full of men with a single raised eyebrow. She was precise, immaculate, and impossible to read. Yet here she was, at my door, and I had no idea why the thought scared me more than the text itself. I took a breath, wiped my palms on my jeans, and cracked the door open. She stood there in the dim hallway, hair damp from misting rain, coat slightly loosened as if she'd rushed here, her breath uneven. Her eyes met mine, calm, but burning with something I couldn't identify. Not anger, not confusion, something else. Can I come in? Her voice was low, softer than I'd ever heard it. I stepped aside out of sheer instinct. As she crossed the threshold, the faint scent of rain and her perfume drifted past me, cool, sharp edges wrapped around something warm. God, this was surreal. 20 minutes ago, I'd been microwaving leftover pasta and arguing with my 8-year-old about bedtime. Now Emma Reed, the woman who terrified half the department, was standing in my living room, tracing the rim of my daughter's abandoned cereal bowl with a strange kind of curiosity. She turned to me, lips parting just slightly. Why did you text me that? Her voice wasn't accusatory. More like, careful. God, this was a nightmare. It wasn't meant for you. I blurted. I was texting Lily. I thought I clicked her name. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. You missed her, she murmured, eyes flicking to a framed drawing on the wall. Crayon stick figures, one labeled Daddy, one M.E. You really miss her, even when she's just asleep. That obvious. Oh. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer. My heartbeat thrashed against my ribs. This was wrong. Too close. Too quiet. Too intimate. I swallowed. Emma, I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. You didn't. A pause. Not in the way you think. Something in her stare made my breath catch. And then she whispered it. 5 words that would split the entire fabric of my life in the months to come. I needed to see you. The words hit me harder than a physical blow, because there was a tremor beneath them, emotion she didn't usually allow herself. My skin prickled, heat rising to my face, my stomach twisting with a confusing mixture of dread, guilt, and something dangerously close to curiosity. Why would she need to see me? But before I could unravel anything, before I could decide whether to ask, deflect, or run, another sound interrupted us. The soft jingle of keys. My front door unlocking from the outside. Emma stiffened. I froze. Only 2 people had keys to my apartment, me and my girlfriend, Avery. The door swung open with a smooth whoosh. Avery stepped in, smiling in that absent-minded way she always did when she came over late after grading papers. Hair piled messily on her head. Backpack slung over one shoulder. Familiar, comforting, until her eyes landed on Emma. The smile fell so quickly it was almost audible. What is going on? Her voice dropped, confused and wary, but rising fast towards something sharper. Her gaze darted between us, Emma standing too close to me standing too still, the thick awkward air clinging to the room. Oh, she said slowly, each letter threading eyes through the space. Wow. Okay, didn't expect to walk into this. Avery, wait, I said, hands going up, heart pounding. It's not, this isn't. I came because Michael needed help with a work matter, Emma said coolly, mask snapping instantly back into place. A total lie. A perfect lie. delivered with the same confidence she used when shutting down million-dollar mistakes in meetings. Avery's eyes narrowed. Right. You drove across town. At night. To help him with spreadsheets. Avery. No, she snapped, stepping back toward the door. No, I'm not doing this. Not tonight. She stormed back out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. The moment the latch clicked, I rounded on Emma. What the hell was that? She met my anger with unnerving calm. If I had told her the truth, that you accidentally sent a message meant for your daughter, she would have asked why it mattered enough for me to come. My explanation would have sounded worse. I could have handled it, I said, though my shaking hand betrayed me. No, she said quietly. You couldn't have. Not with her. Something cold slid down my spine. What is that supposed to mean? She didn't answer. Instead, she glanced at the door as if mulling over the consequences of what just happened. Regret flickered across her face for a split second before disappearing behind her usual composed calm. I should go, she murmured. I didn't stop her. The second the door closed behind her, I let out a breath so shaky it almost knocked me to my knees. What was that? What the hell was happening? Avery didn't respond to my texts. Not that night. Not the next morning. Her silence felt like a bruise spreading across my chest. But that wasn't the only thing gnawing at me. Because Emma didn't behave like someone caught in an awkward mix-up. She didn't behave like a boss. Or a friend. More like someone who knew something. Someone who was trying to protect me. Or hide something. That thought clung to me through the morning as I got my daughter ready for school. As I walked into the office and caught Emma staring at me from her glass wall corner. As I tried to ignore the heat of the previous night replaying in short, jagged flashes. When she called me into her office around noon, I braced myself for a lecture, but she didn't mention the text. She didn't mention Avery. She didn't mention showing up at my apartment like the world was ending. Instead, she slid a folder across her desk. Read this, she said. It was a project proposal. But not just any project proposal. The one I drafted. The one I'd spent weeks perfecting. The one I'd submitted to Avery last Friday, because she promised she'd proofread it before I submitted it officially. Except the version Emma handed me wasn't mine. Yes, the formatting was identical. The charts were the same. But the writing wasn't mine. And at the bottom, the author name wasn't mine either. Submitted by Avery Collins. I stared at the page, my body going cold, then hot, then numb. No, this wasn't possible. Avery wouldn't. She stole it, I whispered. Emma didn't flinch. Yes. My stomach lurched. Air constricted my chest. My brain tried to make excuses, rationalizations, anything to delay the avalanche crashing down. She must have mixed up files. She didn't, Emma said softly. She emailed it from her personal account. I checked. My pulse hammered against my skull. Why? Why would she do that? Emma's eyes darkened with something like pity, or something heavier. That, she said, is only the beginning. I felt the room tilt. The beginning? The beginning of what? Before I could ask, there was a knock at the door. I turned. Avery stood in the doorway, eyes red, hands trembling, face pale. Michael, she whispered, voice breaking on my name. We need to talk. Emma exhaled quietly, almost like she'd been expecting this. Avery stepped inside, closing the door behind her with a soft click that sounded too final, too heavy. My chest tightened as she turned toward me with an expression of guilt so raw it made my stomach twist. I'm so sorry, she whispered. But you have to understand. Something happened, and I didn't know how to tell you. Her eyes then flicked, briefly, nervously, toward Emma. And in that one flicker, I saw it. Fear, recognition, connection. Something they both knew. Something I didn't. And suddenly, the text message wasn't the mistake that started everything. It was a loose thread that had pulled the whole hidden tapestry apart. Whatever Avery came to confess, whatever Emma already knew, it was going to destroy something. Maybe everything. She stood there as if waiting for permission to collapse. The apology in her voice came out like a tiny animal pleading at my feet, frightened and ashamed. My mind tried to prepare for so many possibilities and landed on none of them. I had rehearsed responses to cheating, to betrayal, to any conceivable human catastrophe. None matched the look on her face now. "Tell me," I said, and it was more demand than invitation. My throat felt raw. Avery swallowed. Her hands twisted the strap of her bag until the leather creaked. "I didn't mean to," she broke off. Then, steadier, "I copied your proposal. I thought I was helping. I sent it to Emma as if it were mine." The room blurred at the edges. A ridiculous, hollow part of me said, "That's it. That's all." But the rest of me felt the floor drop away. "You submitted it?" I asked, hating the tightness in my voice. "Yes." The word was a confession and a blade both. I edited it. I added a few things. I thought, "Michael, I needed a promotion. We needed the money, and you were swamped in stress. I made a choice I shouldn't have." It was a betrayal that cut deep because it was not born of lust or anger, but from something duller, more insidious. Fear. Fear that had been gnawing at her for months. Fear about bills, about tenure, about making sure Lily had piano lessons and that our dryer wouldn't die in the middle of winter. She'd hidden it in the small, justifiable choices she made. Skipping breakfast to save cash, taking on extra grading, lying about a conference. "What about us?" I said, the words coming out as an accusation, though I didn't want them to be. "What about everything we built?" Avery's lips trembled. "I thought I was saving us. I thought if I could get that promotion." "You stole my work," I said flatly, the syllables cold and even. "You took my hours, my late nights, the parts of me I gave to that project and called them yours." She flinched as if struck. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so." Emma watched us both, expression a canyon. I realized with a sick clarity that she hadn't left after last night because of loyalty to me. She'd stayed because she was invested now, not in our relationship, but in evidence, in facts, in what would be necessary when the facade crumbled fully. Her presence felt like an examination I hadn't consented to. "You could have told me," I said, the anger now a bright, scorching thing that made my hands clench. "I didn't know how," she whispered. "I kept thinking I'd find a way to fix it before you found out. I kept telling myself I'd confess once it was too late to take back. But here we are." "You used my daughter as an excuse," I said. "The guilt, my guilt, souring everything. The text. You said you missed Lily and sent it to me by mistake. That was the first brick to tumble." Avery's face crumpled. "I know. I was trying to cover up one mess with a smaller one, and it blew up. I'm sorry." She reached for me and stopped short, like touching a wound. My chest ached with the intimacy of it. For a moment I thought about the child asleep 2 rooms away, about how this would settle into the woodwork of her memories. I imagined her grown, parsing the shapes of her upbringing, who had lied, who had worked, who had been willing to break trust. The thought of Lily seeing me unraveling felt like theft. "You said there's more," Emma interrupted quietly. "I don't think this is the only thing." She folded her hands on the desk and leaned slightly forward, the posture of someone opening a case. "Avery's not the only one on your file trails. We traced communications. There were deleted emails, edits from different accounts, and..." She hesitated. The air tightened. "A ghost account that pushed revisions through at night." My skin crawled. "Who?" Emma's jaw worked. "That's what we're figuring out." I wanted to ask if I could see the logs, the timestamps, anything concrete. Instead, I felt a primitive panic, like a hunter realizing that all the marks on his tree could belong to a predator that had been circling for months. I thought of clients praising Avery's thoroughness, of smiley emails where she'd CC'd me and deleted the trail later. I thought of the small silences between us that had once seemed like quiet companionship, and now felt like the hush before a storm. Avery stared at the floor. "I didn't want him to know," she said suddenly, voice microscopic. "I didn't want anyone to know. Not even you. But it wasn't just about the promotion. When I logged into the ghost account, I found..." Her hand flew to her mouth, as if to catch something spilling out. "I found messages. From someone in HR. Someone who promised they could make things simpler. They said they could make sure I'd get credit. They said don't worry about who notices. Emma's expression hardened. We ran the headers. The IPs are messy, routed through private servers. Someone knows how to cover tracks. The corner of my world felt like it had been pried loose. There was something else now, a delicacy of duplicity involving not just my girlfriend's desperation, but an invisible hand pulling strings in my workplace. The betrayal had a new face, anonymous and methodical, like something designed by careful hands. Who would want this? I asked into the empty air. Why target me? Target us. Emma's gaze slid to Avery, then back to me, weighing. It could be competitive, she said. Jealous colleagues. Or someone who benefits from creating instability. Oh! She broke off and met my eyes. Or someone who wants leverage. Leverage. The word felt clinical and terrifying. Someone wanting leverage over me, over my position, over the project. I thought of nights in the office, of a careless remark made over coffee, of a promotion stolen by thin rationales whispered in corridors. The world condensed into the sharp point of a question. Who gained by tearing this apart? You'll have to trust me, Emma said then. And there it was, command wrapped in uneasy empathy. I can run a full audit. I can get IT to pull backups, look at permissions, figure out who accesses the files and when. But I need you to be honest. That was a small, terrifying request. To be honest meant to lay bare every indignity, every compromise, the messy truth of our private lives that sprawled into public lanes. To be honest meant to give Emma the keys to a part of ourselves we had tightly coiled. I thought of Avery's hands, of her whispering that she didn't want anyone to know. I thought of the way she'd always avoided discussing finances, making jokes out of our worries. Honesty had always been my compass, even when it failed me. I realized with a stubborn clarity that if we wanted to find out who'd been carving at the foundation of us, we would have to step into the light. It would hurt. It would uncover things not just about betrayal, but about the small, pragmatic lies that keep people afloat. I'll tell you everything, I said finally. The words cost me. They were like opening a vein. But I need you to promise no judgments. Not from you, Emma. Not from you, Avery. Emma's mouth twitched. She nodded, slow and precise. No judgments. Just facts. Avery's eyes searched mine then, and in them I saw the same fear she had when we considered moving to a house with a mortgage we could barely manage. She looked like someone deciding whether to jump. Okay, she said. Her voice was raw, small. I'll tell you everything. I should have told you sooner. Her confession came out in a flood, not neat and ordered but jagged and full of shame. She described late-night messages that promised quick fixes, offers to anonymize authorship, someone in IT promising they could create a shadow account to funnel credit. She said she thought it would stop at the proposal. She thought it would be a small, fixable theft in exchange for stability. But once the project was live and people applauded, she panicked. She patched the lies with more lies. She deleted trails with trembling fingers. Each deletion was less a solution than a deeper trap. I listened and cataloged everything like a crime scene investigator. Dates, times, vague contacts, the way her voice shuddered on certain names she wouldn't say aloud. Each omission felt like a stone in a wall I was trying to dismantle. When she finished, the room felt ancient, like the scent of something long extinguished. The air was heavy with the truth, and with the aching awareness that apologies could not smooth out the rawness. Outside, rain tapped at the windows in small, indifferent patterns. Emma stood. I'll start the audit now, she said. I'll bring in IT under the guise of routine maintenance. We'll follow the logs, piece the trail together. And if it doesn't lead anywhere? Avery whispered, terrified of the silence that followed her own question. Then we follow other leads, Emma replied. We ask people. We cross-check. We make it impossible to hide. For the first time since the text message popped up like a splintered flare, I felt the direction of something. It wasn't peace. It wasn't closure. It was a plan, clumsy and urgent, but it was a way forward. Avery reached for my hand and found it, fingers clasping with a desperation that felt honest and awful. I let her hold on, not because I knew forgiveness was possible, but because the child, soft-breathing 2 rooms away, demanded we not burn the house down tonight. As Emma left, she paused at the doorway and turned back. Her look was not accusatory. It was something harder to read, the face of someone who'd seen infidelity in many forms and was tired of its novelty. "You'll get answers," she said. "But answers aren't always what we want. They're what we need." When the door closed, I realized I was trembling again. Not from the cold this time. From the knowledge that betrayal had never been a single act but a ripple, and I was now standing at the heart of it, pebbles shifting underfoot. Whatever came next would not be simple. It would require seeing the parts of us we had hidden. Small, utilitarian lies, protected deceits, calculated silences, and deciding what to do with each. I thought about Lily's drawing on the wall, two stick figures holding hands beneath a sun with too many rays. The image felt like a plea and a threat. We had to rebuild trust from scratch, or we would find ourselves teaching a child to mend a life made of splintered truth. I didn't know if I could forgive. I didn't know if I could survive what would be uncovered. But for the first time since the missent text, I knew what I had to do. Follow the trail, no matter where it led. The audit began the next morning, though audit felt too sterile for what it really was. It felt more like peeling back wallpaper and finding mold, layers of it, spread in places you didn't even know existed. Emma worked with a ruthlessness that was almost frightening. She called it professionalism, but it looked like war. For 3 days, I felt like a ghost in my own life. Avery stayed with me and Lily, though we moved through the apartment like strangers sharing a temporary shelter. Each night she sat beside me in bed but didn't touch me. Each morning we exchanged a brittle version of normality, making breakfast, double-knotting shoes, packing lunches, while avoiding each other's eyes. Lily sensed something. Children always do. She clung to me more than usual, asking if her mummy was sad, if I was sick, if I could stay home today. I told her everything was fine. I don't think she believed me. On the third afternoon, I was in Emma's office. She had a spread of printouts across her desk, access logs, revision histories, flagged emails, strings of nonsensical numbers and timestamps. What struck me most was how calm she seemed while holding evidence capable of detonating multiple people's careers. "Someone's been inside the system longer than we suspected," she said without looking up. 2 months at least. Maybe more. I exhaled slowly. "And the ghost account?" "It wasn't created by Avery," she said, "but she used it, which makes her vulnerable to whoever did." It wasn't news I wanted. It was news I expected. Still, hearing it out loud lodged something cold inside me. Who benefits from sabotaging my work? I asked. Emma stared at the spreadsheets for a long moment before answering. "Someone trying to climb over you, or someone trying to get close to you." The word close hung in the air like a bead of mercury, reflective, poisonous. I shifted in my chair. "If you're suggesting..." "I'm not suggesting anything yet." Her tone cut off the accusation before it formed. But motivations don't have to make sense to be real. Jealousy never needs clarity to exist. Besides, she tapped a file with one manicured finger. "The timing of the edits matches your schedule. The ghost account worked at night, when you stayed late. So the person was here in the building." "Yes." "Watching me." Her silence was confirmation. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling something inside me crack, slow and painful. "Michael," she said quietly, "you need to prepare yourself. These kinds of betrayals rarely stay contained." The words made me flinch, not because of the warning, because of her tone. It wasn't professional. It was personal, deeply. When I met her eyes, I saw something that I wasn't ready to name, something that had been hovering beneath the surface for weeks, maybe months, long before my stupid text message had collided with her inbox, and that terrified me more than any anonymous saboteur. That night, Avery made dinner. Pasta, her comfort meal for when she felt a disaster pressing against the walls. She moved around the kitchen in small, careful motions, as if trying not to disturb whatever fragile balance existed between us. When she set the plate in front of me, she gave a hopeful, trembling smile. "I made your favorite," she said. I nodded. "Thank you." It was the blandest conversation I'd ever had, but she looked relieved just to hear my voice. After Lily went to bed, she approached me cautiously on the couch. "We need to talk," she whispered. The phrase triggered something in me, a mix of dread, fatigue, and inevitability. I nodded. She sat beside me, folding her legs beneath her. She fiddled with the seam of her sweater for a long silence. Then, Michael, I think someone is following me. My blood chilled. What? I didn't want to tell you until I was sure. Her eyes filled with fear, real fear, not guilt. Last week, I saw a car idling outside my apartment. Twice. Same license plate. Same dent in the bumper. And yesterday, someone called from a blocked number. They didn't speak. They just breathed. A sick twist coiled in my gut. Why didn't you say anything? I was scared you'd think it was paranoia. After everything I did, I didn't think I had the right to bring you another problem. She inhaled sharply. But it's connected. I know it is. Whoever helped me steal the proposal, they want something. They are not done. I stared at her, the truth dawning slowly. This wasn't just about betrayal between us. This was about manipulation from someone outside, someone using Avery's fear to push her into desperation. Someone watching me, monitoring my habits, waiting for the perfect moment to slip into the gaps of my life. You think the person in HR, whoever messaged you, they're the same person. I asked. Yes, she whispered, and they're escalating. I swallowed hard. Avery, why did you trust them in the first place? She looked away, shame tightening her shoulders, because they knew things, private things, about us, about Lily, about our bills, our schedules, things I never told anyone. Her voice shook, things they shouldn't have known. A cold wave rippled through me. Someone had been studying us, closely, intimately. I felt a pressure behind my ribs, panic ready to splinter. We need to tell Emma, I said. Avery hesitated. Do you trust her? The question landed like an accusation disguised as concern. I didn't answer right away. The silence was answer enough. Avery looked down at her lap. You trust her? It's not that. You do. She didn't sound angry. She sounded defeated. I rubbed my face, exhaling shakily. I don't know what I know anymore. She turned toward me with a fragility I hadn't seen since our early days, when she'd still been afraid I'd walk away at any moment. I love you, she whispered, voice cracking. I know I hurt you. I know I broke something in us. But I didn't betray you because I wanted someone else. I didn't cheat on you. I didn't fall out of love. I was scared, Michael. That's all. Scared and stupid and so sorry. Her eyes shone with tears she tried not to let fall. And God help me, part of me believed her. Another part wondered if believing her would be my next mistake. The next morning, Avery insisted on driving Lily to school alone. It'll give you time to rest, she said. I didn't argue. I should have. Just before 11, Emma burst into my office without knocking. We need to leave, she said. My chair scraped sharply against the floor. What happened? Her face was tight with urgency I'd never seen on her before. There was an attempted breach in the company's internal network. Someone tried to wipe the ghost account trail. They almost succeeded. Almost. I repeated. They would have, if IT hadn't already been in the system, which means whoever did this knew we were looking. They knew the audit was happening. My pulse thudded unevenly. Inside job, or someone with access, someone who's been watching you. The phrase hit like an echo of Avery's confession. Before I could process it, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text from a number I didn't recognize. 2 words, check location. A chill crept up my spine. Then another message came in. This time, a shared live location. The dot was moving, fast, heading toward. My stomach dropped. Emma, it's Avery's phone. Emma grabbed her blazer. We're going. Now. We rushed to the parking garage. Emma drove faster than I'd ever seen her drive, weaving through traffic with controlled aggression. My heart slammed against my ribs. Why would someone take her phone? I whispered. Maybe they didn't, Emma said grimly. Maybe she sent it. The hairs on my arms lifted. But if she sent it, then why no message? Emma didn't answer. Her jaw was clenched too tight. I watched the dot on my screen move steadily toward the outskirts of town, toward an industrial stretch with abandoned warehouses and shuttered manufacturing buildings. This doesn't make sense, I muttered. Why would she go out there? Because someone told her to, Emma said, or someone took her. The words made my blood run cold. A factory lot came into view. Cracked asphalt, rusted staircases, weeds slashing through concrete. The dot stopped moving. We pulled into the lot just as my phone vibrated again. A photo, a blurry one, a warehouse door, half open, and a shadow just behind it. Avery's shadow. Oh, God, I breathed. Stay behind me, Emma said. She pulled something from her glove compartment, a small canister. Pepper spray. Of course she had it. We stepped out. The wind sliced across the empty lot, carrying the smell of rust and old oil. The warehouse loomed like a sleeping animal. Emma signaled for silence. We crept forward. My entire body felt electric, nerves firing violently beneath my skin. When we reached the door, Emma lifted her hand and pushed it open slowly. The hinges groaned. The space inside was dim, lit only by narrow slivers of light breaking through broken windows. Avery! I called softly. No answer. We stepped in. My breath echoed louder than it should have. There was movement. Not ahead. Behind us. Before I could turn, a voice spoke from the shadows. Low. Calm. Familiar. You shouldn't have come. And my blood turned to ice. Because I knew that voice. I knew it instantly. It wasn't Avery. It wasn't a stranger in HR. It was someone I trusted. Someone I never suspected. A figure stepped into view, slowly, deliberately, and the world tilted as recognition slammed through me. It was someone who had been in my life for months. Someone close. Too close. And they were smiling. A quiet, satisfied smile. Like everything was going exactly according to plan. The figure stepped fully into the thin shaft of dusty light. And the world, my world, fell out from under me. Brian, my manager, my mentor, my friend, the man who trained me, vouched for me, talked me through the worst moments of last year when Avery and I nearly split. He babysat Lily once when Avery had food poisoning. He'd sat right across from me every morning, sipping burnt off his coffee and joking about the apocalypse our spreadsheets would eventually cause. Now he stood in the shadows of an abandoned warehouse like some villain in a cheap thriller. Brian, I choked out. What the hell are you doing here? He smiled faintly, sadly, almost, like he pitied me. God, that made it worse. You weren't supposed to come, Michael. You weren't supposed to chase this. He tilted his head. You're not built for this sort of thing. Emma stiffened beside me. Move away from the door, she ordered. Brian's eyes flicked to her briefly. Ah, Emma Reed. Always 5 steps ahead. Except this time. His eyes slid back to me. I really hope you just let Avery take the fall. That would have been clean. Predictable. My pulse hammered in my neck. Where is she? What did you do? His brows lifted. Do? I saved her. She was drowning. You of all people should understand that. The words hit me with the force of a punch. Saved her? I took a step forward, fist shaking. Where is she? He sighed as if I were an exhausting child. Safe. For now. Emma cut in sharply. You've broken into company servers, used a false account to sabotage formal work product, manipulated an employee into academic fraud, and now you've abducted her. Whatever justification you think you have. Brian laughed. Actually laughed. Abduction? Really? I didn't abduct her. She came here willingly. My breath caught in my throat. She's here? I whispered. Brian nodded. She wanted to tell you everything. But she was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of disappointing you. Scared of disappointing herself. My vision blurred with rage. You manipulated her. His expression twisted. For the first time, something sharp and honest cut through his calm. Manipulated, he echoed. You think Avery wasn't already halfway there? You think she wasn't desperate? You think she didn't hate watching you get praised while she felt invisible? You think she didn't crumble under the pressure of being the glue in your perfect little father-daughter world? Emma touched my arm lightly, warning me not to fall into his bait. Brian saw that, and his smile changed. More brittle, more painful. "You took everything from me," he whispered suddenly. The words trembled with something dark and trembling. "Everything I wanted. The career I should have had. The family I should have had. You didn't even know. You never noticed what you had that other men begged for." It clicked then, sickeningly, violently. Brian wasn't doing this because he hated me. He was doing this because he wanted to be me. I stared at him, my stomach churning. "You were the one contacting Avery." I breathed. He nodded. "Of course I was." "You created the ghost account." Another nod. "You watched my late nights." A tilt of his head. "You followed her," I whispered. "Watched her apartment. Called her. Threatened her." "I didn't threaten her," he snapped. "I guided her. I helped her. She was suffocating. Michael. She needed someone who saw her." Emma stepped forward. "Where is she now?" Brian's eyes flickered, a tiny fracture in his composure. "Brian," she said slowly, "if you want any chance of walking away without this turning into something irreversible, you need to bring her out. Now." For a moment, he considered it. I could see it, a wall behind his eyes. But then he shook his head. "No, I can't. Not yet." "Not yet." My heart stuttered. "What did you do?" I demanded. He stepped back toward the deeper shadows. "You'll understand soon. You will see I didn't have a choice." Emma grabbed my arm. "Michael, don't follow him. Not blindly." But I couldn't stand still. Not with Avery somewhere in this rotting building. Not with Brian unraveling in front of us like someone second away from snapping. "Brian," I said, voice cracking, "it doesn't have to end this way." But he was already moving, retreating like a wounded animal deeper into the dark maze of the warehouse. I ran after him. "Michael!" Emma hissed, but she followed close behind. The corridors twisted, narrow and cold, metal pipes lining the walls like exposed veins. Our footsteps echoed. Somewhere above, something dripped steadily, water or oil or time itself. Then, a sound. Not Brian. A soft whimper. Avery. I sprinted toward it, rounding a rusted support beam and stopped dead. She was there, tied to a chair, hands bound in front with zip ties, bruised but conscious. Tears streaked her face. Her breath hitched when she saw me. "Michael," her voice broke. "I tried to warn you. I told him I wouldn't help him anymore. He said he'd make everything come crashing down. He said—" Brian stepped from behind her, one hand gripping her shoulder, not violently, but possessively. "She wasn't supposed to call you," he said quietly. "She ruined everything." "You're insane," Emma snapped, pepper spray raised. "Step away from her." He smiled, afraid, tragic smile. "Emma, you think I didn't see you circling him too? Trying to protect him? Trying to get close? You're not subtle." Emma didn't react, but I saw a flash of something, anger, maybe, or shame. Brian's voice turned soft again when he looked at me. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted a life that made sense. A life that fit." His eyes shone with a haunted longing. I could have been good to her. To Lily. I would have raised her like my own. Rage surged in my chest so violently I nearly lunged. "No," Avery cried. "Brian, stop. Please. Let us go. This isn't you." "But it is," he whispered. "It's who I've had to become." He reached into his jacket. I froze. Emma froze. Avery froze. Brian pulled out. Not a gun. Not a knife. A flash drive. He held it delicately, like a detonator. "All the files," he said softly. "Every ghost edit. Every stolen login. Every message. Every detail about your family, your life, your job. It's all here. And if anything happens to me, if I don't personally log in tonight, it's automatically sent to HR, corporate, legal, your clients, hell, even Lily's school district if I want." My blood turned to ice. "You would ruin my daughter's life," I whispered. His jaw trembled. "No, I would give her a better father." That did it. The last thread inside me snapped. I moved before thinking. Emma yelled my name, but I was already on him. Brian stumbled back, the flash drive slipping, his hands swinging wildly. He wasn't a fighter. He tripped over the leg of Avery's chair, hitting the concrete hard. The flash drive skittered across the floor. Emma dove and kicked it away. Brian scrambled, but I grabbed him, fist gripping his shirt, slamming him against the wall. You wanted my life. I shouted. You wanted to take everything from me. Why? Why me? He cried out, not from pain, but from grief. Because you already had everything, he gasped, and you didn't even see it. His voice broke, crumpling into raw misery. I loved your daughter, he whispered. I loved Avery. I loved the family you wasted. The words hit like a physical blow. Avery sobbed behind me. Brian, please. You're sick. You need help. Emma stepped closer, pepper spray still raised. It's over. You need to stop. Brian sagged against the wall, everything draining from him. His shoulders slumped. His eyes emptied. I can't undo it, he whispered. Any of it. A silence settled, a heavy, suffocating silence. Then he looked up at me with something fragile in his face. You texted, I miss you, he said quietly. To me. Not her. Me. The breath punched out of my lungs. He gave a small, broken laugh. That was the best moment of my life. My heart cracked in a way I didn't know it could. Not sympathy. Not forgiveness. Just the horror of seeing how fractured he truly was. He didn't fight when Emma took out her phone and called the police. He didn't run. He didn't resist. He just crumpled, whispering to himself until the sirens grew close. They took him away in handcuffs, head bowed. Avery sobbed quietly as I cut her restraints with a rusted shard of metal I found on the floor. When she fell into my arms, I held her like someone resurfacing from a shipwreck. It took hours to give statements. It took weeks to clean up the digital nightmare Brian left behind. It took months for Avery and me to learn how to speak without flinching. But Lily remained our anchor. Every night she asked if Mommy and Daddy are better now. And every night we said, we're trying. Eventually, we started to believe it. Emma visited once, long enough to drop off files, ensure the company wouldn't collapse under legal scrutiny, and tell me quietly, you are not responsible for his choices. He latched onto you because you're decent. Don't let that change who you are. Then she left, without softness, without lingering, but with an honesty that felt like closure. Avery and I repaired slowly, painfully, honestly. Trust didn't return like a sunrise. It came like the tide, inch by inch. Some days, it felt like we were drowning again. But eventually, enough air came back. Enough light. Months later, one quiet night after Lily fell asleep, I scrolled through old messages and found the one that started everything. I miss you. I stared at it. 3 words. Missent, misread, misinterpreted, unraveled into something monstrous. But they had also cracked open the truth hiding beneath our lives. The truth that betrayal isn't always born from malice. Sometimes it's born from fear, loneliness, desperation, misguided love twisted into something unrecognizable. That night, I deleted the message. Not to forget, but to finally let it go. Because what mattered now wasn't the betrayal. It was what we built after surviving it. And for the first time in months, I felt something steady settle in my chest. Not certainty, not perfection, but hope, quiet and real. The kind you earn,